Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to talk about Amazon Elastic Container Service. So it's a fully managed container service. An Amazon Elastic Container Service ECS is a highly scalable and fast container management service that make it easy to run, stop and manage container on cluster. So these are the features we have and benefit. So it's a serverless options is also available where there is no server is required, and our container will be running that in a serverless cluster. Applications first with a capacity provisioning, performance at a scale and security. Another benefit we have which is reliable and optimized for the cost. Use case we have a batch processing and for web applications. You can see that in a forget pricing. If you want, I'm going to use it, and that it may be cost as well, right? So you can also see the EC2 pricing and anywhere else pricing as well. I'm going to get started, and here we have a clustered options. So sometime you will be get that in a cluster this screen, you know, and you have to create the cluster and then task definitions, and then you will be able to do further. What I'm going to do in other, if you log in into that in a some other services, let's say in first time, so it's all depend on if you choose that in a latest services, it will become something by the browser, and now it's coming that in a getting started. Here we have a option, so it's all depend on for this screen I have opted that in a latest GUI of that in a latest features, whereas in these screens I have not enabled. So here we have a options diagram of a ECS object and how they are related. So we have a cluster is the bigger box, then we have a service, then task definitions, then container definition. The container definitions, it may be simple app where you can use that in Apache HTTPD. Then Nginx or web server, or you have if your one, then you can choose it custom configurations. And these are the some other configurations we have. So let me try and do it. But this is the getting started container service ECS using Fargate. I'm going to choose that in a, let's say, Nginx. And first run task definition SBC create a new, and it's going to be used that in a Fargate, and memory going to use that in 0.5 GB and CPU. Next. So our container definitions and task definitions is done. Then service and cluster. So it's asking the name of the service, Nginx service, number of desired task 1, and automatically create security group, or you want to deploy into the applications load balancer. So I want to use that in a none. I don't want to go and use the applications load balancer for this. If you want to edit, you can edit it as well. Like number of task definitions, you want to allow security group and port range. So here I have selected that in Nginx, and Nginx run by default port 80 and it's allowing to 000, which is okay for me. I'll be just click cancel it. There is no need to edit anything. Click on the next. Now container definitions, task definitions and service is done. It's term of the cluster now. So here it is asking name of the cluster. We can see this is my demo cluster, and it asking the VPC ID and subnet, so I let it be as it is. If you are not aware about that in what is VPC and subnet, please refer that in a VPC sections of networking where I have already described it. So VPC is nothing but a virtual private cloud, and subnet is that in a sub area inside that in a VPC. Next. Now container definition, task definition, service and cluster all done. then we can go and click on the create. Altogether it will be take a few minutes, and you will be see ECS resource creations, right? And it is there in the progress, and preparing service 3 out of 9 completed, right? And it will be take some time, and you can see everything is like in tick mark. Then we'll be go and run hit that in a service where we can see up and running. So this is the one way. Second way, what you have to do, you have to create a cluster first and then task definitions, and then in task definitions you can see whatever it is running, right? So now you can see there is a first task definitions which is active, and what we have created just now, right? And first task definitions 2 and many more. So we'll wait for a few seconds and then we'll see, right? So out of 9, 7 got created. Almost it will be take up to 10 minutes, but let's see. Sometime it will be done quickly as well. So what is happening, we are using the Fargate and creating that in cluster, and then service, all it is done. So it's completed everything. Clustered is done, task definitions is done, service is done, log group, cloud formations stack, VPC, subnet 1 2, and security group. What we can do, we can right click and so is open that in a service directly. If I'll go to that in a task, and all the way in, if I'll click on that in a task, and here we have a right private IP address and public IP address. Just we have to copy the public IP address and hit into that in a browser. And here we go. Welcome to Nginx. This is what we have while using that in a task definition. So this is our first container, and we run it while using that in a Fargate. We have a task definitions, and you can see that in it's a active, and we have a running. Now we have a JSONs. We can see that in a JSONs or by that in a builder. You can go to that in a cluster, but cluster is running under that in a Fargate. So here we have a running task and running services. It's all managed by that in a AWS. So this is what we have, what we can do, and our services is running. So the important aspect like in what you have to do, you have to go to that in a cluster and make sure you know you are deleting the cluster. If you want, you can upgrade it. If you want to create a more service, you can create the service. You can, if you want to create a more than one task, you can create it. And here ECS instance, you can see it is not there because it is running under the Fargate. Here you can see Fargate running task and all, and the charge will be there on basis of that in whatever service we are running. As long as you will be hit this IP address, public IP address from that in a browser, you will be able to see. Now what I'm going to do in this resource only, it's a cleanup is very essential. Otherwise there is a possibility it's a Fargate, so it will be not charged, but some of the services it may be. So better options to go and delete it. So I'm going to do cleanup activity. So delete the cluster. If what you have to do, you have to select that in a cluster, and you have to select that in a my cluster, and all the way in right top corner we have a delete cluster. It will be ask like in delete me and then delete. So what will be happen, the task service task and everything it will be deleted, and again it will be take some time. And make sure there is a no cluster, no task definitions there in that in your AWS account. So what I'll do, instead of waiting for like in longer time, I'll just uh, uh, you can see out of 11, one is deleted. So almost it will be take some time, and it is deleting that in a VPC. Now it's deleting the subnet. I'll be wait for that instead of stopping the video. So you can see that in a full deletions, because that is a really needed. You can choose that in a Apache if you want, right? You can choose that in a Tomcat. If you have your one image, you can use it your one as well. So these are the four options we have. It's deleting the internet gateway. Another subnet. And finally VPC. Out of 11, 9 got deleted. Now out of 11, 11 got deleted. So all in all, what we need, there is no cluster, and you have to make sure there is nothing is there in cluster sections of ECS. And then in task definitions, if something is there, go to the task definitions, actions, and all right. So you have to open the task definitions, then actions, and here we have a deregister. Make sure you are deregistering it, and then go to that in task definitions, and you can see nothing is there. So you have to delete the cluster and then go to the task definitions and make sure nothing is there. That is all about for this lectures, and thank you very much for that.